guys. Sorry I say I'm on. I have this very big obsession with serial killers, I guess, and I'm not really sure where it came from. I just remember watching the investigation channel or like a bunch of crime things, and I'm always like, I was really big on Making a Murderer and like a bunch of things like that. Like, I don't know, I just always found an interest in that. And I decided that I wanted to make a couple, I might do this kind of like, talk about it like different people, but I wanted to make a YouTube video about certain serial killers, and my first pick is Dennis Rader. Mainly I chose him first because, well, I actually live in Kansas currently, and I have a family member living in Wichita, Kansas right now. And I don't know, I actually did not hear of Dennis Rader until probably a couple months ago, before in my oral communication class, which is a speech class, we had to decide what to give our speech on. We could choose any topic, and I decided serial killers, and I was going to choose between Ted Bundy or Jodi Arias, which is not a serial killer, but she's still a murderer. But then everyone in my class told me, no, we want to hear about the BTK killer. And I was like, who's that? And so I started doing research, and I am dumbfounded at the fact that I have never heard of him until this year, because I know quite a bit about quite a bit of serial killers. I don't know why, it's just an interest I have. So first, I guess I will tell you a little bit about Dennis Rader. He was born, oh, by the way, I have fact sheets, like I've done a bunch of research on different things, and I just wrote. I have also my speech paper, and I've wrote a little bit more information about him, but that's why I'm going to be looking down, just to make sure that I get all of my information correct, so that nobody gets mad that I give misinformation. Oh, and before I go on, he was actually an ADT security service, like he did security services, so he was able to break in homes without the security system going off, because he knew a lot about the security system. And he also had an education. He graduated from WSU with a degree in administration of justice, and he also got an electronics associate's degree from someplace in El Dorado. So he was an educated man, so he was easily able to break into a home in the 70s without even being detected by police at all. Dennis Rader was actually born on March 9th, 1945 in Wichita, Kansas, and he seemed pretty normal to the most people. He admitted that he actually started having urges for wanting to kill things, and so he started taking neighborhood cats and dogs that would get loose and would actually kill them. And he grew this fond obsession with women. He had this sexual obsession, this sexual drive at a very young age, like this sexual tension almost with women, and he wanted to further that intention, that drive to do what he wanted to do with women. So besides the killing of cats and dogs and like the weird wanting to look at women thing, he kind of grew up normal. I don't really know much about his actual childhood background. There's not a lot of information about that. And so he joined the Air Force and went abroad and kind of did that for a little bit. And then he met his wife, which is Paula Dietz, I believe is her last name. Sorry if I mispronounce a lot of last names. I'm probably going to, especially the victims, and I feel really badly about it. But I've watched interviews and I've listened to it, and I still messed it up somehow. And he married her in 1971, and they later had 2 children, and he had his first child in 1975, which was his boy, and then he had a girl in 1978. So before he had his firstborn child, a year before about, he actually did his first killing, and that was January 15, 1974. He committed a murder of a family of 4. He went up to their door, knocked, barged himself in basically, and was like, I'm running from the law, I just need your car keys, I'm going to take your car, I need food, I need shelter, and I need money, basically playing that he was running from the law and he was wanted and he just needed a place to stay and he wasn't going to hurt them, and all he was going to do is just take their things and then leave. And that ended up not being enough for him. The father's name was Joseph, and he had his wife Julie, and Joseph was 38 and Julie was 33, and they had 2 kids. Well, they actually had 3, but 2 of them were home. They had Joseph Jr., who was only 9 years old, and then Josephine, who was 11. And so he took the family of 4 and put them in the bedroom. And I don't think he really knows, well, I think he knows what sparked this up. He has an issue. So he took them in the bedroom and he started to strangle Joseph and Julie in the bedroom. And the mother was begging him to take their kids out. She didn't want them to see that. So he's like, okay. So he took Joseph in a separate bedroom and he took, well, Junior, I'll call it Junior because his name is Joseph, but took Joseph Jr. and Josephine out. And so he strangled the parents and they were dead. So he goes to Joseph and Josephine, and I'm not sure if they're in the same bedroom. They might be in separate bedrooms as well. I'm not sure if it's in this order, but he ends up strangling Joseph Jr. and he is gone too. And so what he decides to do with Josephine, who's an 11-year-old little girl, he takes her in their basement and he basically tries to strangle her and basically hangs her, and then after she's dead, he doesn't do anything sexually to her specifically, but he masturbates to her dead body, basically. And that was his first thrill, I guess, of this long journey. And so that was in 1974, and he committed another crime, actually, in 1974 on April 4th, which is about 3 months after his first killing. And he actually broke into a woman named Catherine Bright's home, and he had been stalking her for a while. I believe he stalked people at the Dillon's parking lot and then followed them home. So he decides, this is who I'm killing. So one night on April 4th, he decides to break in, and he is actually surprised that Catherine is not home alone. Catherine's brother, Kevin, is there. So this turned into a very big battle. At this point, I believe he had 2 guns, and he brought some like ropes and plastic bags, things like that. And so he goes ahead and attacks Catherine, and during the attacking of Catherine, Kevin is fighting him and he's fighting back, and he talks about, and it's just a very big battle, and he ends up shooting Kevin in the head, I believe, twice. But Kevin lives and runs away. He gets away. He goes for help. He knows he can't do anything. He has been shot. He needs to go get help, or he's going to die and his sister's going to die, and there's nothing he can do to protect her now. So what Dennis does is he continues what he's doing with Catherine. He, I believe, stabs her twice in the back. And strangled her as well to kill her. And so he starts to freak out because Kevin is gone. So he gets all of his stuff. He brings the duffel bag wherever he goes for his killings. He puts all his stuff in. He tries to wipe things down to get rid of fingerprints, not leaving traces of anything DNA involved, even though really DNA wasn't very strong back then, which is probably why this lasted as long as it did. So he gets all his stuff and leaves. That was his last killing in 1974. March 17th, 1977, he killed Shirley Vian, and she was murdered by strangulation while all 3 of her children were actually locked in the bathroom. He broke in and all 3 of her kids were there, and she was smoking a cigarette, very terrified, shaking, and she just basically pled for her children to be alive. And so Dennis Rader, being the creep, I guess not with a heart, but trying to be humane about it, he and their mother, Shirley, took all 3 children, got some toys, got water, whatever they needed, and put them in the bathroom, locked them in there, and then he, I believe, sexually did things to her and strangled her with a plastic bag and a t-shirt. On December 8th, 1977, his next victim is Nancy Fox. and she was 25 years old, and Catherine also was 21. So far, pretty young victims. And Nancy Fox was one of the very first people that actually was stalked pretty strongly before he actually killed her. With Nancy Fox, Dennis actually had called the police and told them that he had murdered Nancy. And on April 8th, 1985, Rader decided his next victim would be Marie Hedge. And Marie was 53 years old. Marie was actually abducted from her home and found tied up with pantyhose along dirt road only a year later. He ended up killing Vicky Wegerly on September of 86. So, in Wegerly, Vicky was only 28 years old. His last killing was Dolores Davis, and she was murdered January, I believe, 19th of 1991. January 19th, 1991 was the very last killing of that Dennis Rader ever committed. The case kind of went cold. The police didn't really know what was going on, who did this murder. It had went on for 17 years. This mysterious BTK man that was doing horrific crimes, killing an entire family, killing a woman with her children in the next bedroom. They just didn't know who this guy was. And in 2004, he sent several media outlets a number of letters, and one of them had pictures of a crime scene, and they had word puzzles and an outline for the BTK killer story. He wanted his story out there. He wanted to be in the media. He wanted to take credit for what he did without Dennis Rader taking credit for it. He wanted BTK to take credit for it, not Dennis Rader. But I believe he really wanted Dennis Rader to be a part of it. But he had basically wanted to play a cat and mouse catch game. He wanted to give the police a little bit of evidence just to keep them going. And in this letter, he had actually written, I have this small portion of what he had written, and it says, "It's hard to control myself. You probably call me psychotic with sexual perversion hang-up." And he described that he had this urge to kill and was a monster inside him, and he wanted to be called the BTK killer, or strangler. And BTK stand for bind, torture, kill, which is what he pretty much would do during his killings. He would bind them up, torture them by strangulation or sexual abuse, and then would kill them. So 2004 to early 2005, he had left several packages, and one of them had a computer disk, and on that computer disk, it had led the police investigators to his church, because he was an active member of the church. Nobody in the community would have ever thought it was him. He was a Boy Scouts leader, he was an active member of the church, he always had several jobs, married man with 2 children, very normal looking family, but behind closed doors, he was some monstrous killer that nobody even knew about. And so the police knew that at least the person killing was at this church. And also they have Kevin's description of this man. And they started to put the 2 and 2 together, but they weren't really sure, because Kevin's description kind of fit Dennis Rader, and he went to that church, but they didn't really know. And then they noticed that from surveillance cameras that Dennis's van was the one dropping off the packages. And so I don't know how they did this, but they took DNA from Dennis Rader's own daughter to confirm basically that Rader was the killer. And so that was basically the end of the case. And they, I believe, had even semen samples, they had fingerprints, they had hair follicles, they had like over 1,000 pieces of evidence to prove that it was Dennis Rader throughout all years. I believe it was 31 years. Yeah, 31 years in total from the time he started in 1974 to 2005 when he was caught. So, February 25th, 2005, he was arrested, and 10 counts of first-degree murder was placed on him. And I don't know if he ever denied it. I think he wanted the attention, the fame, and he definitely got it. So he pled guilty June 27th, 2005, and I actually watched, they filmed him, and part of his plea deal, which I'm not really sure what his plea deal was. I mean, you're gonna be in prison for the rest of your life. Like, I don't know what deal you have. But anyways, he, in great detail, without hardly any emotion, described every single killing, what he did to them, where he put their bodies, what he took from their homes, who he killed, where they lived, whether he stalked them or not, and just, it was so inhumane, and he had no emotion. He wasn't upset for what he did. He wasn't mad. He wasn't upset. And I found that very creepy and very weird that he just wasn't upset for murdering at least 2 children. And so people wanted him to be put on death. Like, they wanted him killed. Luckily for Dennis Rader, the state of Kansas had terminated death penalty, and in 1994 they reinstated the death penalty as punishable crime. But Dennis Rader's last crime was 1991 when he killed Dolores. So by law they couldn't give him the death penalty, so he escaped it. So now he is serving his 10 life sentences, and I believe in El Dorado, and they later found pictures of him that he would take the victim's clothes, dress up in them, and bind himself with cords and wires and ropes, and would not hang himself but tie himself to trees and stuff, and take pictures in his parents' basement of him wearing the clothes and a very creepy mask. And they found that, they had all the evidence, and I mean, I don't know why I've never heard of this guy, especially since I live in Kansas, but it's just very interesting that over 30 years this man was never caught. And I mean, I'm very glad that I wasn't born in that era, because I mean, it hits a little too close to home. Wichita is 2.5 hours away from me, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere near anything like that. So I mean, I guess it's a little weird to think about, because this man seemed normal. Most serial killers, people believe that are like some creepy old man that like stalks children all the time and like has criminal records. No, it's normally normal men married with children, normal lives, normal jobs, not creepy, like very well put together men that just decide to kill people. I don't know, but it's very interesting to me. I just wanted to do this because it's something that I'm very passionate about for some reason. Thank you so much for watching, and if you guys like me talking about serial killers or murderers or past crimes or anything along those lines, just let me know, and I can definitely do more things because I really like this, and I don't know where my channel is going to be going from. So if you guys really like this video, like it up so that I know that you like it, and if you don't like it, then I mean, I'll still probably do it, but I'll also throw in a couple of other things just so that you're not having to watch something that you don't really want to watch. But I can also put out things that I do like to do, but you also like to watch. So it is storming, and severe thunderstorms are supposed to be coming in anytime. So I should probably stop recording because it's getting a little crazy outside, and there's been a lot of tornadoes around Kansas, and it's a little scary. So I guess I should probably get off here and go check the weather. So thank you again for watching, and I guess I will see you in the next video.